I never thought I'd be the kind of father who'd disinherit his own child. My name is Dennis Morrison, and I'm 42 years old. When my daughter Morgan locked me out of my own house on Thanksgiving, when she laughed while I stood there freezing, told me I wasn't welcome anymore, something inside me didn't just break. It sharpened. I went through shock, yes, rage, betrayal. All of it hit me like a freight train while I stared at that deadbolt through the decorative window. But those emotions didn't leave me weak. They crystallized into something cold and absolute. Clarity. By the time I walked back through that door, I knew exactly what I was going to do. I cut Morgan from my will entirely. She wanted to treat me like an ATM? Fine. She'd learn what happens when the machine stops dispensing. If you've ever been betrayed by someone you loved more than life itself, you'll understand. And if you've ever wanted to watch someone who hurt you face real consequences, then stay with me. But let me start from the beginning. Before I go any further, let me know in the comments where in the world you are watching from, and make sure to subscribe because tomorrow I will share a story you don't want to miss. I stood on my own front porch, staring at the deadbolt through the decorative window and listened to my daughter laugh on the other side. Not a nervous laugh, not an embarrassed one, a genuine, delighted cackle, like she'd just pulled off the prank of the century. "Morgan, open this door right now," I called through the glass, keeping my voice level even though my pulse was hammering. Her face appeared in the window, my 24-year-old daughter wearing that designer sweater I'd bought her last Christmas, the cashmere one she'd begged for, the one that cost more than my monthly utilities. Behind her stood Jeffrey Klein, her fiancé of 6 months, smirking like he'd just won something. "Sorry, Dad," Morgan sing-songed, and I felt my jaw clench. Jeffrey and I decided we're hosting Thanksgiving this year, alone. You know, like actual adults. I'd spent 3 days preparing this meal. 3 days. The turkey was in my oven right now. My oven, in my house. The sides were in my refrigerator. The table was set. This was the house I'd bought after my divorce from Sandra 8 years ago. The house where I'd welcomed Morgan every single holiday since. "This is my house, Morgan. Open the door." "Actually," Jeffrey chimed in, stepping closer to the window with that insufferable smirk still plastered on his face. "Morgan and I have been talking. We think it's time you signed the house over to us. We're getting married in June, and we need a place to start our life together. You can move into that apartment you were looking at." Something cold settled into my chest. Ice cold and absolute. "Excuse me?" Morgan's smile didn't waver. If anything, it got wider. "Come on, Dad. You don't need all this space. It's just you. Jeffrey and I could really use it, and you're always saying you want to help us. By giving you my house. By being a supportive father," Jeffrey corrected, like he was coaching a child through basic arithmetic. I wanted to put my fist through the glass. Instead, I took a breath, then another. When I spoke again, my voice was quiet, controlled. "Let me explain something to both of you, and I want you to listen very carefully." I locked eyes with Morgan through that window. "Morgan, I love you. I have loved you since the moment you were born. I have worked 60-hour weeks for 24 years to give you every advantage I could. I paid for your college, all 4 years plus your master's degree. I bought you your car. I've covered your insurance, your phone bill, and I've paid off your credit card debt 3 separate times. Dad, this is..." I'm not finished. My voice cut through hers like a blade, and she actually flinched. "Good. Jeffrey, I don't know what you think you found here, but let me make this crystal clear. Morgan doesn't own this house. I do. And the fact that you two think you can lock me out of my own home on Thanksgiving and demand I sign it over to you tells me everything I need to know about where your heads are at." Jeffrey's smirk faded slightly. You were just testing me. Seeing if I'm the kind of pushover who'll hand over his assets because his daughter asks nicely. Well, here's your answer." I pulled out my phone and started recording, holding it up so they could both see the red dot. "Morgan Elizabeth Morrison, you have 30 seconds to open this door, or I'm calling the police and having you removed from my property for trespassing. And Jeffrey, you're not even on the lease, so you'll go first." Morgan's face went pale. Actually pale. All that confidence draining out like someone had pulled a plug. "You wouldn't." 25 seconds. "Dad, come on." 20 seconds. And for every second you make me wait, that's one more month I'm going to remember this moment when you ask me for anything ever again. Jeffrey grabbed Morgan's arm, and I saw something shift in his expression. Calculation. Uncertainty. Maybe we should— Shut up, Jeffrey, I snapped. 15 seconds, Morgan. Open the door. I heard the deadbolt click. The door swung open. Morgan stood there, no longer laughing. Her face was flushed, uncertain. Jeffrey had stepped back, his smirk completely gone now. I walked past both of them into my house. My kitchen, where my turkey was indeed cooking, filling the air with the smell of herbs and butter. And my table was set for 3, because I'd actually believed we were going to have a family dinner tonight. Here's what's going to happen, I said, turning to face them. You two are going to sit at this table and we're going to have Thanksgiving dinner. And then you're going to leave. And then I'm going to think very carefully about what happened here today. Dad, it was just a joke, Morgan said, but her voice shook. No, sweetheart, a joke is funny. What you did was cruel and calculated. And it showed me exactly how you see me, as a bank account with a pulse, as something to manipulate and manage until you get what you want. That's not fair, Jeffrey interjected, and I could hear the defensiveness creeping into his tone. I rounded on him. You want to talk about fair? You've been dating my daughter for 6 months. 6 months. And you think that gives you the right to stand in my house and tell me I should give it to you? Let me make something very clear, Jeffrey. I don't know you, I don't trust you. And based on what I just witnessed, I don't like you. So if you want any chance, any microscopic chance of being part of this family, you'll sit down, shut up, and eat your turkey. We sat. We ate. Nobody spoke except for polite requests to pass the salt or the rolls. The tension was so thick I could have carved it with the turkey knife I was gripping, maybe a little too tightly. Every bite tasted like ash, but I chewed and swallowed and kept my face blank. Morgan tried twice to start a conversation. Both times I just looked at her until she stopped talking. After dinner, after the longest hour of my life, Morgan tried to apologize. Dad, I'm really sorry we got carried away. It was stupid. Yes, I agreed. It was. Now leave. They left. And I sat alone at my table, surrounded by dirty dishes and the wreckage of what should have been a family holiday, and I made myself a promise. If Morgan wanted to treat me like an ATM, she was about to learn a very expensive lesson. I didn't sleep that night. Couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Morgan's face in that window. Her laugh, that casual cruelty, like locking me out of my own house, was the funniest thing she'd ever done. And Jeffrey's smirk. That goddamn smirk, like he'd already won something. By 3 a.m., I was pacing my living room. By 4, I was making coffee. By dawn, I'd made 3 decisions. First, I was calling my lawyer. Second, I was calling my son. Third, I was done being taken for granted. Caleb answered on the second ring. Dad, it's 6 in the morning. I need to tell you something, and I need you to really hear me, okay? There was rustling on the other end, probably Caleb sitting up in bed at his mother's place. Okay, what's wrong? I told him everything. The lockout, Jeffrey's demand for the house, Morgan's laugh. The way they'd tested me, pushed me, treated me like I was an obstacle instead of a person. By the time I finished, Caleb was silent. Dad, he finally said, that's insane. I know. Like actually insane. She locked you out? On Thanksgiving? Yep. And then demanded you give them the house. That's the part that really got me. Not just asking, demanding. Like it was already theirs and I was just holding on to it out of spite. Caleb swore under his breath. What are you going to do? I'm going to protect myself. And I'm going to make sure that if Morgan wants to act like she's entitled to my assets, she's going to learn she's not entitled to anything. Good, Caleb said firmly. I love Morgan, but that's messed up. Seriously messed up. Do what you need to do, Dad. I've got your back. That was all I needed to hear. You know how sometimes you just need one person to validate that you're not crazy? That what you're feeling isn't an overreaction? Caleb gave me that. And it steadied me. Made the anger sharper, clearer, more focused. At 9 a.m. Monday morning, I sat across from Dennis Gomez in his downtown office. Same office where he'd handled my divorce from Sandra 8 years ago. Same desk where I'd signed my will 5 years back. Standard stuff, splitting everything 50-50 between Morgan and Caleb. I want Morgan removed entirely, I told him. Everything goes to Caleb. If something happens to me, Morgan gets nothing. Dennis leaned back in his chair, studying me over his reading glasses. He was maybe mid-50s, sharp-eyed, the kind of lawyer who'd seen enough family drama that nothing really surprised him anymore. But his eyebrows went up anyway. That's a significant change, Dennis, are you sure? I told him about Thanksgiving, every detail, the lockout, the laughter, the demand for my house, Jeffrey's arrogance, Morgan's entitlement. Dennis's expression darkened as I spoke. By the time I finished, he was nodding slowly. I've seen this before, Dennis said. Adult children who start viewing their parents as resources instead of people. They stop seeing you as dad and start seeing you as a retirement plan, as an inheritance waiting to happen. It never ends well. That's exactly what it felt like I was already dead to her. Just a pile of assets waiting to be divided up. If you want to make this change, I'll draft it today. You can sign by end of week. Do it. Dennis pulled up his computer and started typing. Everything goes to Caleb Morrison. House, retirement accounts, life insurance, all of it. Morgan's name will appear nowhere in the document. You understand that if she finds out, she'll lose her mind. I know. But here's the thing, Dennis. I don't care anymore. She crossed a line. She humiliated me in my own home, and she did it with a smile on her face. So now she gets to learn what consequences look like. Fair enough. Dennis kept typing. I'll have the documents ready by Thursday. You can come in Friday morning to sign. The rest of that week crawled by. I went to work, came home, microwaved leftovers because I couldn't bring myself to cook. Ignored 3 calls from Sandra. Morgan must have told her mother something, probably some twisted version where I was the bad guy. I didn't care. Let them talk. Let them think I was being cruel or unreasonable or whatever story they wanted to tell themselves. I knew what had happened. I knew what I'd felt standing on my own porch, locked out by my own daughter. Friday morning, I sat in Dennis's office again. He slid the documents across his desk, crisp, official, with my name at the top and Caleb's name listed as sole beneficiary. Read it carefully, Dennis said. Make sure this is really what you want. I read every word, every clause, every line that spelled out exactly how my assets would be distributed after my death. My house, the house I'd bought with my own money, that I'd worked 60-hour weeks to afford, would go to Caleb. My retirement accounts, built up over 20 years of careful saving, would go to Caleb. My life insurance policy would pay out to Caleb. Morgan's name appeared nowhere in the document. This is what I want, I said, and signed my name. Dennis witnessed it, notarized it, filed it in his safe. It's done, he said simply. I walked out of that office feeling lighter than I had in days. Maybe that makes me sound cold. Maybe it makes me sound like a bad father. But you know what? I didn't feel like a bad father. I felt like a man who'd finally stopped letting himself be used. And then I went home. And I waited, because I knew Morgan. She'd come back. She always did when she wanted something. She showed up 3 weeks later, 2 days before Christmas. Jeffrey wasn't with her. Smart move on her part, though it wouldn't save her. I was in the kitchen when the doorbell rang. I knew it was her before I even looked through the window. Call it father's intuition. Call it pattern recognition. Morgan always came back when she wanted something. I opened the door. She stood there in a long wool coat, hands shoved in her pockets, looking uncertain. That was new. The uncertainty, I mean. Usually Morgan walked into any room like she owned it. Hey, Dad, she said. Can we talk? Sure. I stepped aside. She walked past me into the living room, the same room where we'd sat after Thanksgiving, where the air had been thick with tension and turkey smells. She sat on the couch, perched on the edge like she wasn't quite sure she was welcome. Good. She shouldn't be sure. I wanted to apologize again for Thanksgiving, Morgan said, not quite meeting my eyes. That was really out of line. Jeffrey and I talked about it, and we realized we were being inappropriate. Uh-huh. She looked up at me, waiting for more. I didn't give it to her. So, Morgan shifted on the couch. I wanted to make it up to you. I was thinking maybe you could come to our engagement party next month. It would mean a lot." "No," I said simply. Morgan blinked. "No, I'm not coming to your engagement party. I'm not walking you down the aisle. I'm not contributing to your wedding. And I'm not giving you anything else, not money, not gifts, not my house, nothing." Her face flushed red, and I watched the transformation happen in real time. The uncertain daughter vanished. The entitled stranger who'd locked me out of my house reappeared. "Dad, I wasn't asking for—" "Yes, you were. You locked me out of my house and demanded I sign it over to you. You laughed in my face while I stood outside in the cold. You made it very clear how you see me. So now I'm making it very clear how I see you." Morgan stood up, her voice rising. "This is because of Jeffrey, isn't it? You never liked him. This is because of you, Morgan. Jeffrey's just the symptom. The disease is your entitlement. Your belief that you deserve what I've worked for just because you exist. Just because you showed up and happened to be born. That's not how this works. You don't get my house because you want it. You don't get my money because you think you're entitled to it. You don't get anything from me except what I choose to give you. And right now, I choose to give you nothing. I'm your daughter." The words came out as a shout, raw and desperate. "Yes, and I loved you." Past tense, Morgan. "Because the daughter I loved wouldn't have done what you did. She wouldn't have locked me out. She wouldn't have laughed about it. She wouldn't have stood there with her fiancé and demanded I hand over my life's work so she could play house." Morgan was shaking now, her hands clenched into fists. "You're being ridiculous. It was one mistake. It was a revelation. Now leave." "No." She crossed her arms. "I want to know what's in your will." There it was. The real reason for the visit. Not apology, not reconciliation. She wanted to know what she was getting when I died. "Excuse me?" "Your will. I want to know what I'm getting when you die." I smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. It wasn't a father's smile. It was the smile of a man who'd just watched someone walk straight into the trap he'd set. "Nothing. You're getting nothing." The color drained from her face. All that flush, all that anger, it vanished, replaced by something that looked like genuine shock. "What?" "I'd changed my will 2 weeks ago. Everything goes to Caleb. Your name doesn't appear anywhere in the document. Not once. You're completely removed. 0 inheritance. 0 assets. 0 anything. You can't do that." "I already did. Dennis Gomez witnessed my signature. It's done. It's legal. It's final." Morgan's voice went shrill, cracking at the edges. "I'll contest it. I'll take you to court. Go ahead. I'm 42 years old and in perfect health. By the time I die, you'll have spent more on legal fees than you'd ever inherit anyway. And I've documented everything, including the recording I took of you refusing to let me into my own house. The recording where you laugh about it, where Jeffrey talks about me signing over my assets. You really want to play that for a judge? You want to explain to a courtroom why you thought you could lock your father outside and demand his house?" She stared at me. Her chest was heaving. Tears streamed down her face, but they weren't sad tears. They were furious, frustrated tears. The tears of someone who just realized they'd lost. "I hate you," she said. "That's fine. You're still not getting a dime." She grabbed her purse and stormed toward the door. She yanked it open, then turned back. "You're going to regret this." "No, Morgan. You're going to regret this. You're going to regret what you did on Thanksgiving for the rest of your life. And every time you think about what you could have had, what you threw away because you got greedy, you're going to remember this moment." She slammed the door so hard the windows rattled. I stood there in my living room, alone, and for the first time in weeks, I felt something like peace settle over me. It wasn't happiness, it wasn't satisfaction. It was just quiet. The quiet of knowing I'd done what I needed to do. That evening, my phone started ringing. Sandra called first. I was making coffee the morning after Morgan left, 3 days after Christmas if you're keeping track, when my phone lit up with my ex-wife's name. I almost didn't answer, almost let it go to voicemail. But Sandra and I had maintained a civil relationship for 8 years, and whatever else she was, she deserved a conversation. "What did you do to Morgan?" she asked. No hello. No pleasantries. Just straight to the accusation. She's hysterical. I removed her from my will. Silence on the other end. Long enough that I thought the call had dropped. Then, why? I told her about Thanksgiving. The lockout. Jeffrey standing behind Morgan with that smirk. The demand that I sign over my house. Morgan's laugh echoing through the glass while I stood freezing on my own porch. I kept my voice level, factual, but every word landed like a hammer. Jesus, Sandra breathed when I finished. I raised her better than that. Did you? Her voice turned sharp. Don't put this on me. You're the one who spoiled her. And now I'm unspoiling her. She made her choice. I made mine. She's talking about suing you, Dennis. Let her try. I've got recordings, documentation, a signed will witnessed by an attorney. What's she got? A sense of entitlement and a broken engagement waiting to happen? Sandra sighed. That deep, exhausted sigh I remembered from our marriage, the one that meant she knew I was right, but didn't want to admit it. This is going to destroy her. No. What she did on Thanksgiving, that might destroy our relationship. But her, she'll survive. She'll learn. Or she won't. Either way, it's not my problem anymore. She's your daughter. And I loved her. But love doesn't mean letting someone treat me like garbage. You taught me that, remember? When you divorced me because I was working too much and not paying enough attention? Same principle. Actions have consequences. She hung up without another word. The next day, Morgan's friends started calling. I didn't know half these people, just voices I'd heard in the background during phone calls, names Morgan had mentioned in passing. They all had the same script. I was cruel, heartless, a terrible father. How could I do this to my own daughter over one mistake? I blocked every number, didn't argue, didn't explain, just blocked them and moved on. Then Jeffrey called. Mr. Morrison, I think we got off on the wrong foot. You think? I was standing in my garage, organizing tools I didn't need to organize. Anything to keep my hands busy. I'd like to take you to lunch. Clear the air. No. Sir, with all respect, Morgan is going to be my wife. We need to find a way to... Here's how we find a way, I interrupted. You stop trying to take my assets, and I stop actively despising you. Deal? He was quiet for a moment. Then, in a voice that tried for reasonable but landed somewhere near condescending, I think you're misunderstanding what happened on Thanksgiving. You were just testing me. Seeing if I'm the kind of pushover who'll hand over his life's work because his daughter asks nicely, and her boyfriend smirks in the background. You got your answer. Now we're done. I hung up. Felt good doing it too, if I'm being honest. But the real test came late that week. Caleb called, his voice tight in that way that meant he was trying to stay neutral but struggling. Dad, Morgan called me. She's really upset. I imagine she is. She says you've cut her out of everything, that you're being cruel. I set down the book I'd been pretending to read. What do you think? Long pause. Then, I think she locked you out of your house and tried to take it from you. I think she's getting what she deserves, but she's still my sister and it's hard to watch her fall apart. Caleb, I need you to understand something. What I'm doing isn't about hurting Morgan, it's about protecting myself. If she can lock me out and laugh about it, what else is she capable of? What happens if I get sick? If I need help? Will she be there for me? Or will she be calculating how quickly she can access my accounts? I don't know, Caleb admitted quietly. Exactly. So I'm making sure that if the worst happens, you, the child who actually respects me, are the one who benefits. Not her. You've never asked me for a dime you haven't earned. You've never treated me like an ATM. You work hard, you're grateful, and you understand that love isn't a license to take advantage of people. That's why everything goes to you now. Okay, Caleb said. I get it. But Dad? Maybe there's a way to fix this, before it's too late. She knows what she needs to do. She needs to apologize. Really apologize and mean it. Not because she wants something. Not because she's scared of losing her inheritance, but because she genuinely understands what she did was wrong. Until then, nothing changes. Fair enough. How's Mindy? I asked, changing the subject deliberately. Caleb's voice warmed immediately. She's good. We're good. She says hi, by the way. Tell her I said hi back. You two coming up for New Year's? Planning on it. We talked for another 10 minutes about school, about his girlfriend, about normal things, and when we hung up, I felt steadier, because Caleb got it. He understood why I was doing this, and that was enough. Months passed. I stopped waiting for Morgan to come around. Instead, I focused on building the life I'd been neglecting. The life I deserved, honestly. One where people valued me for more than my bank account. I started dating in February. Her name was Kara Jung, a 39-year-old architect I met through a mutual friend at a dinner party. She was smart, funny, and refreshingly drama-free. No games, no manipulation. Just honest conversation and genuine interest in who I was as a person, not what I could provide. We went to dinner one night in late February, an Italian place downtown with dim lighting and excellent wine. Kara had been asking about my family, and I'd been dodging the question. But something about the way she looked at me, patient, curious, not pushing, made me decide to just tell her. So your daughter really locked you out? Kara asked, setting down her wine glass. Yep. Of your own house. My own house, on Thanksgiving. While my turkey was cooking in my oven? Kara's eyebrows rose. And you really cut her out of your will? Yep. Everything goes to my son now. She considered this, swirling the wine in her glass. Then she looked up at me and said, Good for you. Family doesn't get a free pass to treat you like garbage. I could have kissed her right there. Actually, I did kiss her right there. The waiter had to clear his throat twice before we noticed him standing there with our entrees. Sorry, Kara said, laughing as she pulled back. Don't be, I told her. That was the beginning. And let me tell you, it felt good to be with someone who didn't see me as a resource to manage. Kara had her own career, her own money, her own life. She didn't need me to fund her dreams or bail her out of debt. She just wanted to spend time with me. Simple as that. Caleb came home for spring break in March, and we took a trip together. Just us, hiking in Colorado. 3 days in the mountains, sleeping in a tent, cooking over a fire. The kind of trip I'd always wanted to take with my kids but never had the time for when they were growing up. You know, Caleb said one morning as we broke camp, this is the first time we've done something like this. Just you and me. I know. I'm sorry it took so long. Don't be sorry. We're doing it now. We talked about everything on that trip. His classes, he was majoring in computer science, doing well. His girlfriend Mindy, who he was clearly crazy about. His plans after graduation. He had a couple of job offers already lined up, interviews scheduled. The kid was going places, and he was doing it on his own merit. He never once asked me for money. Never made me feel like an ATM. Just wanted my advice, my perspective. Wanted to know what I thought about his options. I remember sitting by the campfire one night watching the stars and thinking, this is what it's supposed to be like. This is what a healthy relationship with your kid looks like. Then Caleb said, Morgan called me again last week. I looked over at him. Oh? She wanted me to convince you to change your mind about the will. Said it wasn't fair that I get everything. What did you tell her? Caleb grinned. This wide, genuine smile that reminded me he was still just a kid in a lot of ways. I told her she should have thought of that before she locked you outside. I laughed. Actually laughed, head thrown back, the sound echoing off the mountains around us. You said that? Word for word. She hung up on me. Good man. By April, I felt better than I had in years. My relationship with Kara was deepening. We were spending most weekends together talking about maybe moving in together sometime soon. Caleb and I were closer than ever. I'd even started volunteering at a local youth center on Tuesday evenings, mentoring kids who reminded me of my son. Respectful, hardworking, grateful for any guidance they could get. Life was good, simple, peaceful. Then the invitation arrived. It came on a Thursday afternoon. Thick, expensive cardstock in a cream-colored envelope with gold embossing. Morgan Elizabeth Morrison and Jeffrey Allen Klein request the honor of your presence at their wedding ceremony. August 15th. Formal attire requested. Inside was a handwritten note on matching stationery. Dad, I know things have been hard between us, but I'm still your daughter, and I want you at my wedding. Please. Morgan. I read it twice. Then I walked to the kitchen, opened the trash can, and dropped the whole thing inside. Invitation, note, envelope, all of it. That evening, I was sitting on the couch with Kara, her feet in my lap, while we watched some cooking show she liked. She glanced over at me and said, "You're smiling." "I am. Like you just won something." I thought about that. About the invitation in the trash. About the life I was building with this woman beside me, with my son who respected me, with kids at the youth center who actually listened when I spoke. "Yeah," I said. "I guess I did." 2 weeks after I threw the wedding invitation in the trash, my phone rang. Jeffrey Klein's name lit up the screen. His own number, not Morgan's. That was the first thing that struck me. He'd never called from his own phone before. I almost didn't answer. But curiosity got the better of me. "Mr. Morrison, we need to talk." "I'm not paying for your wedding, Jeffrey." "It's not about the wedding. It's about Morgan." I frowned, walking out onto my back deck. The evening air was cool, late April settling into something softer. "What about her?" "She's spiraling. Ever since you cut her out of the will, she's been obsessed. She talks about it constantly. She's convinced you're going to die soon and leave her with nothing, and she's making herself sick over it." "That's not my problem." "With respect, sir, it kind of is. She's your daughter." The words hit harder than I expected, but I kept my voice level. "And she locked me out of my house and demanded I give it to her. Actions have consequences, Jeffrey. She's learning that now." Jeffrey sighed, long and heavy, like he'd been carrying something for months and finally decided to put it down. "Look, I'll be honest with you. I pushed her that day. The lockout thing was my idea. I thought it would be funny, a way to, I don't know, break the ice. I was trying to be clever and it backfired. Morgan went along with it because she didn't want to seem uncool in front of me. But the whole thing was my fault." I gripped the deck railing. "So you're saying my daughter has no agency, no brain of her own?" "I'm saying I was a jackass and I'm sorry. And I think Morgan's sorry too, but she doesn't know how to fix this. She knows how. She apologizes, for real, without excuses. She's scared you won't accept it. Then she stays scared." Silence stretched between us. I could hear traffic in the background on his end, like he was calling from a parking lot somewhere. Finally, Jeffrey spoke again, and his voice had changed. Quieter, more genuine. "Mr. Morrison, I love your daughter. I know you don't believe me, but I do. And I don't care about your money or your house. I have my own career, my own savings. I just want to marry Morgan and build a life with her. But she can't do that while she's this twisted up about you. Again, not my problem. Fine. But when your daughter has a breakdown at her own wedding because her father isn't there, remember this conversation." The line went dead. I stood on that deck for a long time, staring out at the yard I'd spent 3 years landscaping. The rose bushes I'd planted were just starting to bloom, deep reds and soft pinks, the kind Morgan's mother used to love. I told myself I didn't care. I told myself Jeffrey was just trying to manipulate me, same as he'd manipulated Morgan into that lockout stunt. But his words kept circling back. I pushed her that day. That night, Kara came over for dinner. We'd gotten into a rhythm by then. She'd cook on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I'd cook on Fridays and Saturdays. Tonight was her turn, and she'd made this incredible pasta dish with homemade sauce. We were cleaning up when I told her about Jeffrey's call. "Do you believe him?" she asked, drying a plate. "That it was his idea? Does it matter? Morgan still went along with it." She still laughed. Kara set the plate down and turned to face me, leaning against the counter. "True, but people do stupid things when they're trying to impress someone they love. Doesn't excuse it, but maybe it explains it." I wanted to argue, wanted to say that explanation didn't change anything, that Morgan was still responsible for her choices, that I was still justified in everything I'd done. But I didn't say any of that. Instead, I walked over to Kara and kissed her forehead. "You're too good for me. You know that?" "I do," she said, smiling up at me. "But I like you anyway." We finished the dishes in comfortable silence. But later, lying in bed while Kara slept beside me, I couldn't stop thinking about Jeffrey's voice. The way he'd said I pushed her, the way he'd admitted it was his fault. What if he was telling the truth? What if Morgan really had just been trying to impress him, trying not to seem weak or uncool in front of her fiancé? Did that change anything? I didn't know. And honestly, I wasn't sure I wanted to find out. Because if Morgan had been manipulated, if she'd been influenced into something she wouldn't normally do, then maybe I'd been too harsh. Maybe cutting her out entirely was overkill. But then I remembered her laugh. The genuine delight in her voice when she told me I wasn't welcome. The way she'd stood there in that expensive sweater and asked me to sign over my house like it was nothing. No, she'd made her choice. Whatever Jeffrey's role in it, she'd still made that choice. And I'd made mine. The call came in mid-June, about a month before Morgan's wedding was supposed to happen. I was at Kara's place helping her daughter Isabel with a school project when my phone buzzed. Sandra's name flashed on the screen. I almost didn't answer. Almost let it go to voicemail, because whatever Sandra wanted to say, I probably didn't want to hear it, but something made me pick up. Maybe instinct, maybe just curiosity. Morgan's in the hospital. My blood went cold. Every muscle in my body locked up, and for a second I forgot how to breathe. What happened? Sandra's voice was tight, strained in a way I hadn't heard since our divorce. She had a panic attack. A bad one. They thought it was a heart attack at first. They rushed her to the ER, ran all these tests. She's okay now physically, but Dennis, she's not okay. She's falling apart. I should have felt something. Worry, maybe. Fear. But all I felt was that same cold clarity I'd had since Thanksgiving. Why are you telling me this? Because I know you think you're teaching her a lesson, but you're destroying her. Whatever she did, whatever stupid thing she said, she's your daughter. She needs you. She needed me to be a doormat, that's different. Dennis, don't. The word came out harder than I meant it to. Don't try to guilt me into this. Morgan made her choice. I made mine. I hung up. My hands were shaking so badly I nearly dropped the phone. Kara appeared in the doorway, concern written all over her face. Isabel had already gone upstairs, probably sensed the adult conversation coming. What happened? I told her. Every word Sandra had said, every feeling churning in my gut that I couldn't quite name. Kara sat beside me on the couch, not touching, just present. She didn't speak for a long time, and I appreciated that about her. She knew when silence was better than platitudes. Do you want to go see her? Kara finally asked. No. Do you want to forgive her? No. Kara nodded slowly. Okay, then don't. But Dennis, and I'm only saying this because I care about you, make sure this is really what you want. Because once you burn this bridge all the way down, there's no rebuilding it. You need to be certain. I wanted to say I was certain. Wanted to tell Kara that I'd never been more sure of anything in my life. But the words stuck in my throat. Because somewhere deep down, in a place I didn't want to examine too closely, I wasn't sure at all. So I didn't answer. I just sat there staring at my phone, wondering if my daughter was lying in a hospital bed thinking about me the way I was thinking about her. 3 days passed. I didn't call, didn't visit, didn't reach out. And then, on a Thursday evening while I was making dinner, someone knocked on my door. I opened it, and there was Morgan. She looked terrible. Worse than terrible. She'd lost weight, enough that her clothes hung off her frame like she was a kid wearing her father's shirt. Her face was pale, almost gray, with dark circles under her eyes that looked like bruises. Her hair needed washing. She looked like she hadn't slept in weeks. I'm sorry, she said immediately before I could speak. Her voice cracked on the words. Dad, I'm so sorry. What I did on Thanksgiving was unforgivable. I was cruel and greedy, and I took you for granted. I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I'm asking for it anyway because I can't do this anymore. I can't lose you. I stood there, one hand still on the doorframe, and I stared at her. Really looked at her. For the first time since Thanksgiving, she didn't look like the entitled stranger who'd laughed at me through the window. She looked like my daughter, my little girl, the one I'd taught to ride a bike, the one who used to fall asleep on my shoulder during long car rides. Why should I believe you? I asked quietly. Because I broke off the engagement. My eyebrows shot up. What? Jeffrey and I aren't getting married. The words tumbled out fast, desperate. I realized he was the one pushing me to ask you for things, to see you as a resource instead of a person, and I let him because I was scared of losing him. But I lost you instead, and that's so much worse. Something cracked in my chest. That wall I'd built, that anger I'd been feeding for months. It wavered. Just for a second, but enough that I felt it. Morgan, I don't care about your money, Dad. I don't care about your house or your will. I care about you. I want my father back. And I'll do whatever it takes to earn that. My throat felt tight. You really ended it with Jeffrey? This morning. And I told him it was because he turned me into someone I hated. Someone who would hurt you. I looked at my daughter, really looked at her, and saw the truth written all over her face. The regret, the desperation, the genuine bone-deep need to fix what she'd broken. I stepped aside. Come in. Morgan's face crumpled with relief, tears spilling down her cheeks as she walked past me into the house. Into my living room, where months ago I'd told her she was getting nothing. We sat down, and for the first time in half a year, we were ready to actually talk. We sat in my living room, the same room where months ago I'd told Morgan she was getting nothing. The same couch where she'd demanded to know what was in my will. The same space where I'd watched her become someone I didn't recognize. But now, something was different. She was different. I need you to understand something, I said, keeping my voice level. What you did on Thanksgiving wasn't just hurtful. It was a betrayal. You showed me that you see me as a bank account, not a father. And that broke something in me. I know. Her voice was barely a whisper. And I'm so sorry. Saying sorry isn't enough. You need to show me. Over time. With actions, not words. I will. I swear. I leaned forward, making sure she was looking directly at me. And if you ever pull something like that again, we're done. No second chances. No more forgiveness. You're out of my life for good, do you understand? Yes. The word came out firm. Final. Like she actually meant it. I exhaled slowly, feeling some of the tension leave my shoulders. Okay. Then we start over. Slowly. And we see where it goes. Morgan's face crumpled and she started crying. Real ugly sobs that shook her whole body. Not the manipulative tears I'd seen before, but genuine grief and relief all mixed together. I pulled her into a hug, and for the first time in months she felt like my daughter again. But that didn't mean I was changing my will. Not yet. The next few months were careful, tentative, like we were learning how to be father and daughter all over again. We met for coffee every week, always the same place, a quiet cafe near her new apartment. And here's what Morgan didn't do. She didn't ask for money, didn't mention the will, didn't bring up the house or inheritance or anything related to my assets. She just showed up, listened, tried. In July, she told me she'd gotten a job. Full-time marketing position at a firm downtown. It's entry-level, but it's something. That's great, Morgan. I moved into an apartment too. Small place, got a roommate. It's not fancy, but it's mine. I nodded. This was exactly what she needed. Standing on her own 2 feet instead of expecting someone else to carry her. I started seeing a therapist too, she added, stirring her coffee. Dr. Jasmine Harris. She's helping me work through some stuff. Good. A few weeks later, Morgan brought up what Dr. Harris had said. She told me I have issues with boundaries and entitlement. Dr. Harris sounds smart. Morgan gave a small, rueful smile. She also said I was using Jeffrey as a way to avoid taking responsibility for my own life. That I was looking for someone to take care of me the way you always did. And what do you think? She looked down at her cup. I think she's right. I think I've been a spoiled brat who took you for granted, and I'm really sorry, Dad. I know you are. That was all I said, because the apologies were nice. But I was watching her actions. And so far, her actions were backing up her words. Caleb came home for the summer, and the 3 of us had dinner together at my place. It was awkward at first. Nobody quite sure what to say, how to act around each other after everything that had happened. But as the evening went on, the tension eased. Someone told an old story about a disastrous camping trip from years ago, and soon we were all laughing, interrupting each other to add details, falling back into the rhythm we used to have. By the end of the night, it almost felt like before. Later, after Morgan left, Caleb asked me, "Are you going to change the will?" "I don't know. Maybe. Eventually. She's doing better, but I need to know it's real. That it's permanent." Caleb nodded. "Fair enough. But Dad, I think she really means it this time." I hoped he was right. By October, I'd made my decision. I called Dennis Gomez. "I want to update the will again." "Reinstating Morgan?" "Partially. I'm splitting everything 60-40, with Caleb getting the larger share. He's earned it. But Morgan's proven she's serious about changing. She deserves a second chance." "Done. I'll have the documents ready by end of week." I told Morgan over dinner the following week. Her eyes immediately filled with tears. "I don't care about the percentage, Dad. I just care that you trust me again. I'm getting there. That's enough for me." When I told Caleb, he just shrugged. "Whatever you think is fair, Dad. I trust your judgment." And that, right there, was why he was getting the bigger share. Christmas came. We all gathered at my house, me, Kara, Caleb, his girlfriend, Mindy, Morgan. No drama, no demands, just family. Morgan brought pie, homemade, not store-bought. Caleb brought wine. Kara brought her daughter Isabel, a sweet 12-year-old who immediately bonded with everyone, peppering Caleb with questions about college and asking Morgan about her new job. We ate together, laughed together, told stories about holidays past. And for the first time in over a year, I felt whole, like I'd finally gotten my family back. But this time, it was a family built on respect, on boundaries, on the understanding that love doesn't mean letting people take advantage of you, and that was worth more than any inheritance could ever be. A year and a half after that Thanksgiving, I married Kara. The ceremony was small, just close friends and family, held in a garden venue Kara had designed herself. Caleb stood on my right as my best man. Morgan stood there too, on my left, because she'd earned her place back. And when the time came for toasts, Morgan stood up with a glass of champagne and said something I'll never forget. "My dad is the best man I know," she told everyone gathered there. And I almost lost him because I forgot what mattered. I got so caught up in what I thought I deserved and what I wanted, that I stopped seeing him as a person. I saw him as a resource, as something to manage and manipulate until I got what I wanted. Her voice broke slightly. And the day he cut me out of his life, I realized what I'd really lost. Not money, not a house, not an inheritance. I lost my father. The man who'd sacrificed everything to give me opportunities he never had. The man who worked 60-hour weeks so I could have a better life than he did. She looked directly at me. I'm so grateful he gave me a second chance, that he let me prove I could be better. And Kara, she turned to my new wife. "Welcome to the family. Take care of him. He deserves it." There wasn't a dry eye in the place, including mine. Life settled into a new rhythm after that, a healthier one. Caleb graduated college that May and immediately got a job offer from a tech firm in Seattle. Good salary, great benefits, real career potential. He and Mindy moved out there together, and every time we talked, he sounded happier than the last. He never asked me for help with the move, never hinted that I should chip in for the deposit on his new apartment. He handled it himself, the way I'd raised him to. Morgan got promoted at her marketing company in July, assistant account manager. She called me that night, excited, telling me about the new responsibilities and the raise that came with it. "I did it on my own, Dad. No favors, no shortcuts, just hard work." "I'm proud of you, sweetheart." "Thanks. That means everything." Around that same time, I heard through mutual connections that Jeffrey had moved to another state, North Carolina, I think, and was engaged to someone else. Some woman he'd met at his new job. Good for him. I genuinely meant that. He'd made mistakes, sure, but he'd also owned them. And he'd done the right thing in the end, stepping away so Morgan could rebuild her relationship with me. I hoped he'd learned something from all of it. I hoped his new fiancée never had to stand on her own porch, locked out by someone who was supposed to love her. I kept the will at 60-40. Caleb earned his larger share. He'd stood by me when it would have been easier to side with his sister. He'd never once treated me like an ATM or made me feel like my only value was what I could provide financially. And Morgan? She understood why the split was uneven. She never asked me to change it, never brought it up at all. "I don't care about the will, Dad," she told me once, over one of our regular coffee meetups. "I care that you're in my life. That's worth more than any amount of money." And I believed her, because her actions had proven it month after month for over a year. I'm genuinely happy now. Really, truly happy in a way I wasn't sure I'd ever feel again after that Thanksgiving. Because I learned something important through all of this. You can love your children without letting them take advantage of you. You can forgive without forgetting. You can set boundaries without guilt. And Morgan learned too. She learned that entitlement has consequences, that relationships require respect, mutual respect, not just demands and expectations. That love isn't a license to hurt people. The last time I saw Jeffrey's name was in Morgan's phone contacts, actually. We were having coffee one morning. This was maybe 6 months ago. And she pulled out her phone to show me photos from a work event. I saw his name in her recent messages. Just sitting there. Without a word, she tapped it, scrolled up through months of untouched conversation, and hit delete. "Don't need that energy anymore," she said simply. "Good call. My life now is simple, peaceful. Kara and I travel. We took a trip to Italy last fall, spent 2 weeks exploring ruins and eating food that made everything back home taste bland by comparison. We're planning to visit Japan next year. Caleb and Mindy come home for holidays. They're talking about getting engaged themselves, and I couldn't be happier for them. Morgan and I have dinner every couple weeks. Sometimes at my place, sometimes at hers. We talk about work, about life, about everything and nothing, like a real father and daughter should. And Isabel, Kara's daughter, my stepdaughter, calls me bonus grandpa now, which makes me laugh every time. She's a great kid. Reminds me of Caleb at that age, before the world got complicated. My front door stays unlocked when family's around, but only the family that's earned it. Morgan will inherit a comfortable amount when I'm gone. Just not everything. Because some lessons need to last a lifetime. I think about that Thanksgiving sometimes. Not with anger anymore. That burned itself out a long time ago. But with something closer to gratitude. Because that day showed me exactly who I was dealing with. It forced me to protect myself, to draw lines I should have drawn years earlier. And ultimately it made both Morgan and me into better people. She's doing well now. Great even. She's got her own life, her own career, her own apartment that she pays for with her own money. She's independent in a way she never was before. But more than that, she knows. And I know. She'll never take me for granted again. And honestly, that's worth more than any inheritance could ever be. I believe stories such as this find us for a reason. If this one touches you, please subscribe. I share a new one every day. In the meantime, there are 2 stories on the screen that are even better.